Hello and welcome back to another fantasy football video. Hope you guys are all doing well. We're heading into a blank game week 32, and for many of you, you're going to be looking to utilize that free hit chip with the likes of Manchester United, Manchester City and Brighton all blanking. It really gives you the opportunity to attack the single game week with players from teams like Liverpool and Crystal Palace performing quite well at the minute, but not actually being very highly owned. You can potentially double, triple up on those players and really attack this game week. With my team up personally, the way that it's structured, it seems as though it's going to be better utilized to use the free hit chip in game week 34 to really attack that double game week. So this video is more going to be focused around how I can sort of use those two free transfers in order to navigate this blank game week 32, which is quite an interesting conundrum, to be honest, because there are plenty of potential moves that can be made. So firstly, we're going to take a look at how the team did perform in game week 31. I'm going to take a look at the chopping box of those players that I'm potentially going to be getting rid of ahead of game week 32, potential transfers, and a player watch list ahead of 32, and then how the team actually does potentially line up. If you are new around here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really does help me out. Hit the like button and comment down below any players that you're actually potentially thinking of bringing in ahead of game week 32. Let's go straight on into this one. So this is how the team did perform in game week 31. It all kind of hinged around one penalty for me, and that was the penalty that Saka did miss against West Ham. It was like a 12-point swing or something silly like that, with the -2 he got for missing the penalty, the 5 he would have got for scoring it, then Martinelli would have got the assist, and then bonus points, etc, etc. So starting at the back there, Raya actually did manage to perform okay, picking up 5 points, although they did lose 2-0 to Wolves, and that's sort of the upside of Raya at the minute, is that he gets save points and he gets bonus points even when Brentford do concede. Mings yet again coming in with another clean sheet. Almost disappointed not to get bonus points for him as well, but he's performed so well for me of late that I can't really complain. Gabriel and Ben Mee both coming in with 1 pointers. I was a bit disappointed with Ben Mee because I sort of took the risk to play Ben Mee over Trippier because I thought Villa were going to score, which they did, but you know, both players ended up getting 1 point. Yet again, I played Matoma over March, which over the last 2 weeks has netted me a deficit of -8 points. So that's not been particularly ideal. And then Tony blanking with Ollie Watkins scoring a 16-pointer was absolutely not ideal, along with Kane blanking as well. But, you know, little silver linings in Erling Haaland only playing 45 minutes and managing to score a brace and picking up 12 points. Captaining him sort of somewhat saved my game week, to be honest. Sitting at an overall rank of 154k, hoping to push towards the top 100k towards the end of the season. And if I get a top 100k finish, I'll be pretty damn happy with that, because I was sitting at about 1.6 million going into the sort of fresh restart after the World Cup. So I feel like I've done pretty well since then. But yeah, you can see here there are plenty of players that are underperforming or performing quite poorly at the minute. So let's take a look at the potential players to get rid of the chopping block ahead of game week 32. So these are some of the players that I'm potentially thinking of getting rid of. You may be a little bit surprised there to see Haaland, but it is because he does blank in game week 32. And the strategy around this would be get rid of Haaland for an attacker going into game week 32, and then I would get Haaland back for probably Tony, who then for the rest of the season doesn't look particularly great. I just don't want to get rid of Tony this week because he does have a home fixture, although it is against arguably one of the most, or not arguably, one of the most informed sides in the Premier League at the minute, against Aston Villa. We then have Chilwell, who's probably the main player that I'm thinking, or the one that I'm most certain that I'm going to be getting rid of this game week. Not 100% who for just yet, although I do have some ideas which I'll come on to in a minute. But his form has been pretty lackluster off late, as has just Chelsea's generally. Lampard has been preferring Cucurella for him, and you see so many things online on Twitter and etc about how poor of a player Cucurella is. So the fact that Chilwell is getting benched for him really does kind of sum up Chilwell's prospects at the minute. Then we have Raya, who did, manage to pick up a 5-pointer after conceding 2 goals in the previous game week, but they still conceded 2 goals, and he's not going to be able to whip out performances like that week in, week out. Brentford have taken a bit of a turn for the worse of lately in terms of, how they're conceding goals, how they're conceding chances. And it is really sort of shown in terms of Raya's points of late. Now, it's quite funny though, because I've got the highest scoring goalkeeper and the highest scoring attacker that I'm looking at potentially getting rid of. But it's just the way the moves are going to work this week. Also potentially doubling up on the Brentford defence against Aston Villa, a side that have scored in their previous 15 game weeks. Doesn't bode particularly well for fantasy football points. So yeah, Raya is definitely one that is on the chopping block for me. So let's take a look at some potential replacements. So starting us off, we have Trent Alexander-Arnold playing for Liverpool. Currently playing a lot better, or currently a side that is playing a lot better than they have been throughout most of the season, really. A tactical change has taken place where now when they're moving into the attacking phase, they're playing a 3-2-5, which has really benefited Trent because he's moved into a sort of more 6/8 position where you can sort of hover by the edge of the box and just absolutely whip balls in, which is great for his attacking potential. And against Notts Forest at home, a side that have been scoring goals this season, but mainly when they're at home themselves. Their on the road form has not been so great so far this season. It does bode well for Trent going into game week 32, and I'm seeing a lot of people go for him on their free hit drafts, and I think for me is somewhat of gonna be doing some covering here because I don't want to miss out if Trent goes and absolutely hauls in this game week, but I do generally just think that he looks like a much better option now coming into game week 32 and beyond as well, playing against West Ham away in game week 34. And the sort of stretch that they have to the back end of the season does look pretty good as well. So, with Trent, I'm not just looking at game week 32, although, I do like having a focus on who are the good players here and now. But it's nice to know that in the future, Trent will actually have good fixtures towards the sort of last few game weeks. Then the goalkeeper transfer, potentially going to be looking at Sam Johnston for Crystal Palace, playing against an Everton side who away from home this season or in the last 5 games have only scored 4 goals. And under Roy Hodgson, Crystal Palace themselves have really solidified at the back, winning their last 3 games since he has come in. And if you look at their fixtures there, Crystal Palace have the best set of fixtures towards the back end of the season. They play Everton at home, they're Wolves away, and then 36 to 38 they play against Bournemouth, Fulham and Forest. They've got a silly good run of fixtures towards the back end of the season, and I think that getting him in could bode me quite well long term. Getting him in for Raya, better than getting him in for Kepa, because there's a little bit of rotation you can do there with Johnson and Kepa, for Kepa coming in game week 35 when they do play Bournemouth, and Johnston does play against Spurs, whereas Raya and Brentford for the back end of the season really don't have very good fixtures at all. Johnston also, last 2 games that he's played, picked up 13 points, picked up a 9-pointer against Southampton, picking up some saves and some bonus points, and then picking up a 4-pointer against Leeds, save points and bonus points as well. So it seems like he's, boding quite well for the future, and looks really good out of the Palace defenders to actually pick up those sort of extra points in the form of save points and bonus points. So I like the prospect of him. Also, gives me a little bit of money. 0.4 million, it's not loads, but it could help me towards the back end of the season with potential plans that I do have there. Then finally, you've got Ollie Watkins. Seems like a shoe-in, obviously don't have him in, and he just did score a 16-pointer. So you may be sat there thinking, why the hell would you not just bring Ollie Watkins in, especially after a performance like he just had against Newcastle? I think the main reason for me is that it cost me 2 transfers in order to bring Ollie Watkins in. I want Haaland back in my team, but I don't want to get rid of Tony this week because he doesn't blank. So I'd have to bring in Watkins for Haaland and then get rid of Tony to then get Haaland back in. Whereas if I bring in, say, Johnston, that's 1 transfer that sets me up for the rest of the season. And then in game week 33, I can then bring in Watkins for when he plays against Fulham. So for me, Watkins is... But basically, is the difference going to be, is Watkins going to outscore Johnston significantly this game week, or is Johnson going to outscore Raya by enough points as the difference for Watkins, if you kind of get what I'm saying there. That was a bit of a convoluted way of saying it, but I hope you get my point. I think Trent is, or at least that defender spot, is the one that's definitely going to go for me. So Chilwell could go to any one of Trent or potentially Gahey or potentially another player that I may punt on, but I think those are the two that I'm looking at the minute. And I think for the rest of the season, Trent does look like the best option. He does just cost a lot more than the other players, so I have to make sure that, you know, there is enough budget there to carry the rest of my team through. You may be looking here and thinking, why the hell is Salah not in this team? He's one of the most popular players to at least be free hitting coming into this game week. If not, people are really like looking hard to transfer him in for this game week. I think with just the way that the team is set up, it just doesn't work. I'd have to get rid of Kane, which I'm not sort of ready to do yet. Although he doesn't have the best of fixtures, you know, in game week 32 or 33, he does have a fixture in game week 32, so it makes him quite hard to get rid of. And when Kane gets to game week 35, all of a sudden he's got really good fixtures towards the back end of the season, and I just think that, you know, they'll probably will end up matching each other towards the back end of the season. So why you know, waste a couple of transfers that I would need to get Salah in when I've got a perfectly good player in Kane in the attack? So finally, how does the team look ahead of game week 32? So we've got the double Brentford defence. Currently they're playing against Aston Villa at home. As I say, really not ideal, which is why I'm kind of favouring the Johnston move at the minute. You've then got Trippier playing against Kane, so that's not ideal. You've got Mings there playing against Tony, so that's also not ideal. You then have the three Arsenal players, Gabriel, Martinelli and Saka, playing, so I'm hoping that they can really pull my team through this week. In terms of captaincy, I'm favouring Martinelli over Saka, just because Saka looked pretty downbeat and pretty shot in that West Ham game. Even, I think, before he missed the penalty, he's sort of lacking confidence at the minute, whereas Martinelli is flying high and is returning quite well of late. Since Jesus has come back into the team, Martinelli definitely the one that's performing better, and that was the way it kind of was at the start of the season as well. So I think a lot of people will be looking to potentially move Saka out of their teams because he just really isn't performing of late. And then I really hope Elise can grab something in this game week, because he's going to be my main differential, I feel. If he can pick up a goal, an assist, or just something, I really think that's going to help against all the people that will be free hitting. Realistically, I'm not expecting a green arrow this week. This week for me is sort of another week of damage limitation. Hopefully I don't get too much of a big red arrow even, and if I do get a green arrow, that will be absolutely fantastic. Yeah, if you have enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new around here. It really does help me out. Comment down below any players that you're thinking of bringing in, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.